What kind of father fights for the house, the cars, the savings, but refuses his own 7-year-old child? That was the exact moment everyone in the mediation room went quiet. Marcus Ramirez, 36, successful real estate broker, expensive watch on his wrist and absolute confidence in his voice, leaned back in his chair and said something no one expected. "I want the house, both cars, the savings account, just not the kid." Not the kid. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. 7-year-old Noah Ramirez was sitting just outside the conference room at the time, swinging his legs under a chair while coloring a page full of dinosaurs. Completely unaware that inside that room, his father had just erased himself from his life with a single sentence. Now, if you're wondering what Elena Ramirez did next, you're not alone. Because Elena, 34, didn't cry. She didn't shout. She didn't argue. She simply nodded once and said calmly, "Understood." And that single word made everyone in the room turn toward her like she had just lost her mind. Her own lawyer blinked in disbelief. The mediator hesitated. Even Marcus looked slightly confused, as if he expected a fight. But it never came. Elena just sat there quietly, hands folded, like she had already made peace with the outcome. The house? Fine. The cars? Fine. The money they had spent 10 years building together? Also fine. To everyone watching, it looked like she had just handed Marcus everything he wanted without resistance. And people began whispering. Was she in shock? Was she too exhausted to fight? Or did she simply not realize what she was giving up, but what no one in that room understood? Not the mediator, not the lawyers, and definitely not Marcus. Was that Elena had asked one very specific legal question just days before that meeting? A question that would quietly turn Marcus's victory into something very different. But Marcus didn't know that yet. And on the day of the final hearing, he walked into the courthouse smiling, completely convinced he had won. From the outside, Elena Ramirez looked like the worst negotiator in divorce history. Seriously, ask anyone who knew the couple, friends, neighbors, even Marcus's co-workers. They all said the same thing. She gave him everything. And technically, they weren't wrong. Marcus and Elena had been married for 10 years. They met in their mid-20s when Marcus was still trying to build his real estate career and Elena was working as a school librarian. Back then, life was simple. A small apartment, secondhand furniture, late-night takeout dinners. But as Marcus's career grew, so did his appetite for status. The bigger house came first, a sleek black SUV, then a second car, luxury watches, golf club memberships. Marcus loved the idea of success, and more importantly, he loved people seeing it. So when the marriage started falling apart, Marcus approached the divorce the same way he approached every business deal in his life, strategically, coldly. During mediation, he laid his demands out clearly. "The house stays with me," he said. "The SUV too. The savings account gets split in my favor since I earned most of it." Then he paused before adding something that caught even the mediator off guard. "And I'm not interested in custody." The room fell silent. Even his own lawyer shifted in his chair. But Marcus just shrugged. "Kids aren't really my thing." Elena didn't argue. She didn't even hesitate. She simply nodded once. "Fine," which confused everyone. Why would a mother accept that so quickly? Why would she let Marcus walk away with the house, the money, and still refuse custody? Friends started calling her after the meeting. "Are you sure about this?" one of them asked. Even her lawyer, Priya Shah, pulled her aside privately. "Elena," she said carefully, "you do realize you're giving him nearly all the assets. Ish, right?" Elena thought about it for a moment. Then she asked a question that sounded oddly specific. "If Marcus refuses custody, what exactly does that mean legally?" Priya paused, because that question changed everything. And the answer she gave Elena that afternoon would quietly shape the entire divorce. But Marcus had no idea. And months later, when the final hearing arrived, he walked into that courtroom smiling. Marcus Ramirez believed he had engineered the perfect divorce. In his mind, the outcome was simple. He kept the house, he kept the cars, he kept most of the money, and the responsibility of raising a 7-year-old, that disappeared from his life completely. At least, that's what he thought. For months after mediation, Marcus acted like the entire situation was already finished. He told co-workers at his real estate office that the divorce had been surprisingly easy. One afternoon, he even joked during lunch. "Honestly, I expected a huge custody fight, but she just let it go." His colleague raised an eyebrow. "You're not seeing your son at all?" Marcus shrugged. "I'll send birthday gifts." And that was the extent of the plan. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Elena's life looked very different. Every morning she woke up early, made breakfast for Noah, walked him to school, and then headed to her job at the elementary school library. Her routine was steady, calm, predictable. But behind the scenes, Elena and her lawyer were doing something Marcus wasn't paying attention to. They were documenting everything, every written statement where Marcus declined custody, and every signed agreement where he refused visitation, every legal form confirming Elena as the sole guardian. Because in family law, that single decision carries consequences. Serious ones. Priya Shah explained it clearly during one of their meetings. "When one parent refuses custody," she said, tapping a page in the legal file, "the court treats the other parent as 100% responsible for raising the child." Elena listened quietly. "And that affects child support calculations," Priya continued. "Not slightly, dramatically, because Marcus wasn't just a father who shared parenting time. According to the paperwork he signed, he was a high-income parent choosing zero involvement, and under state law, that activates a financial formula Marcus had never even looked at. The numbers would include housing, healthcare, schooling, childcare, and long-term education support for a man earning $210,000 a year. But Marcus ignored the emails from his lawyer asking him to review the financial projections. He assumed it was routine paperwork. After all, he had already won. Or at least, that's what he believed. Until the day of the final hearing, because when the judge opened the financial report and Marcus's lawyer started reading through it, his expression changed instantly, and the next thing he did was lean toward Marcus and whisper something that wiped the smile right off his face. Marcus Ramirez expected the final hearing to take 15 minutes. Sign the papers, shake hands, walk out with the house, the cars, and the bank account that he believed he had fought so cleverly to secure. Easy. He sat confidently at the defense table, jacket perfectly pressed, tapping his pen against the folder in front of him. Across the courtroom, Elena sat beside her lawyer, calm as ever. No drama, no anger, just quiet patience. The judge, Linda Carver, began reviewing the documents in the file. Page after page, financial statements, custody agreements, income declarations. Marcus barely paid attention, until his lawyer, Daniel Hargrove, suddenly stopped flipping pages. His brow tightened. He leaned closer to the document. Then he turned another page. Slower this time. Marcus noticed the shift immediately. "What?" he whispered. Daniel didn't answer right away. Instead, he slid the paper slightly toward Marcus and pointed at a section near the bottom. Projected child support obligation. Marcus glanced at the number casually at first. Then he blinked, because the figure printed there didn't look small or temporary. It was calculated across 11 years, until Noah turned 18. Housing support, medical coverage, private school contribution, after-school care, future education fund percentages, and retroactive support covering the months during the divorce process. Marcus leaned closer to the page. His voice dropped. That can't be right. But Daniel quietly tapped another paragraph, a line Marcus himself had signed months earlier. Father declines custody and visitation, which legally categorized Elena as the sole custodial parent and triggered the maximum support calculation allowed by the court. Marcus swallowed. The total obligation printed at the bottom of the page was $412,000, way more than the value of the house equity he fought for, more than the savings he kept, more than both cars combined. For the first time that morning, Marcus slowly turned his head and looked across the courtroom at Elena. She wasn't smiling. She simply watched him calmly. The exact same calm expression she had worn the day he said he didn't want his son. But what the judge said next made the situation even worse for Marcus. The courtroom was silent when Judge Linda Carver finished reviewing the file. She adjusted her glasses, looked down once more at the documents, and then spoke in a calm, steady voice that carried across the room. "Mr. Ramirez, the court acknowledges that you have voluntarily declined custody and visitation rights for your son, Noah Ramirez, age 7. Marcus sat frozen. Though he already knew what the next sentence was going to be, but hearing it out loud felt very different. Therefore, the judge continued, the court assigns full custodial responsibility to Ms. Elena Ramirez and applies the standard support formula for a sole custodial household. Then she said the number, $412,000, structured in monthly payments over the next 11 years. Marcus stared straight ahead. The house he fought for suddenly didn't feel like much of a victory anymore. Yes, he kept it. He kept the cars. He kept the savings account. Exactly what he asked for. But the responsibility he tried to avoid had quietly turned into something far larger than any of those assets. Across the room, Elena didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. Why, she simply sat there with the same calm expression she had carried through the entire process. Later, outside the courthouse, Noah ran across the plaza chasing pigeons while Elena spoke with a friend. "Why didn't you fight him harder for the house?" the friend asked. Elena watched her son laughing in the sunlight. Then she answered softly, "Because he showed me exactly what mattered to him." Marcus fought for things. Elena fought for her child. And sometimes the biggest victories are the ones that don't look like victories at all.